Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we really get into the details, unpacking complex source material to find those practical insights you can use.
We try to make sense of it all.
Exactly. And today, we're diving deep, fulfilling a special request from Sachin J. Karnik, who's the founder and CEO of Energy and Personal Excellence, LLC. We want to mention that this analysis comes to you through the religious studies arm of his program.
That's right.
And also, for those interested, Sachin Karnik conducts daily satsang online, and everyone is welcome to join. We'll only mention his name here at the beginning, as requested.
Okay.
So, our focus today is a major one, a really foundational text in Indian philosophy, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, usually called the BRS.
It's a cornerstone.
If you're looking for maybe the ultimate spiritual roadmap, maybe even like a theological engineering manual for divine love, well, this might be it.
It's incredibly systematic.
Yeah.
And the name itself, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it really tells you something big is happening.
What does it actually break down to?
Well, Sindhu means ocean. Amita is nectar, immortality. Rasa is, well, it's usually taste or aesthetic flavor. But here it's the ecstatic experience. And Bhakti is devotion.
So the ocean of the nectar, the ecstatic experience of devotion? Wow.
Yeah, it's not just promising a little bit of bliss. It's promising a whole ocean, an unending supply of this ecstatic, divine flavor. It suggests a depth that maybe other paths don't quite reach, or at least claims to.
And this wasn't written in isolation, right? There's a context here.
Absolutely essential context. It's 16th century, written by Rupa Goswami. He was a key disciple, maybe the key systematic theologian for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Chaitanya, who really led that huge wave of Kaya Bhakti across North India.
Exactly. Chaitanya brought this incredible devotional fervor, this ecstatic chanting, this renaissance of personal love for Kayam. What Rupa Goswami did was take that raw, powerful spiritual energy and give it a systematic theological structure.
So he codified it.
Yeah.
Made it sustainable.
Precisely. To understand his role, you could think of figures like, say, Augustine or Aquinas in the West. They didn't just have ideas, they built the entire framework. Rupa Goswami defined the terms, laid out the practices, clarified the goals. Everything needed for this specific path of divine love to continue coherently for centuries.
Okay, so our mission today for this deep dive isn't just a historical look.
No, not at all.
It's about understanding the structure of Bhakti as the BRS presents it. We need to define those key terms clearly and see how Rupa Goswami differentiates this path, especially from things like Jnana, the path of knowledge, or Patanjali's yoga.
Right. Because the BRS isn't just abstract philosophy, it's intensely practical. It gives, quite literally, 64 distinct processes. These are the tools, the methods you use to move from just thinking about devotion to actually living it, to experiencing that ecstatic reality it promises.
So we're looking at the architecture of pure devotion, step by step.
That's the plan, building it up from the foundation.
All right, so structuring an entire ocean that requires some organization. Rupa Goswami divides the BRS into 4 main parts, called quadrants or waves. Before we get into the how-to, the practices, let's get the big picture.
The structure itself is, well, quite elegant. These 4 waves cover everything. First, the essential nature of bhakti itself, what are its characteristics? Second, the sadhana, the means, the practices, how you actually do it.
Okay.
Third, bhava, the foundational spiritual emotions that arise as you progress, the intermediate stage. And fourth, prema, the ultimate goal, the perfection of pure, supreme love for God.
And today we're focusing mainly on the first 2, the nature and the practice.
Exactly. We need to understand what bhakti is according to Rupa Goswami and then dive deep into the sadhana, the practical steps.
Let's start with that core concept you mentioned, rasa. You said Rupa Goswami sort of redefined it.
He did. Rasa traditionally comes from Indian aesthetics, poetics, drama. It's the emotional flavor, the specific mood evoked by art. Rupa Goswami takes this concept and elevates it to the spiritual realm.
So not just the taste of a poem, but the taste of God.
Essentially, yes. For the bhaktas, rasa becomes the direct, dynamic, ecstatic experience of loving God and being loved by God. It's a living relationship full of flavor and feeling. And this redefinition is key because it immediately sets bhakti apart from paths focused only on the self, the Atman.
Why is that distinction so critical right at the outset?
Because paths like jnana, or Patanjali's yoga to a large extent, aim for ananda, Which is bliss, yes, but it's often the bliss of self-realization. It's discovering your own eternal nature, svarbhavastanam, achieving a state of static, peaceful existence, often seen as merging into the impersonal Brahman.
Okay, so an inward focus.
Primarily inward, yes. Bhaktas, however, seek rasa, and rasa is inherently relational. It requires another. The joy isn't just in finding yourself. It's in the dynamic interaction, seeing, serving, loving this infinite, beautiful other person, Bhagavan.
And the BRS argues this relational joy is better.
Exponentially better, quantitatively and qualitatively superior. The argument is that the bliss of realizing the finite self, Ananda, even its eternal aspect, pales in comparison to the bliss derived from interacting with the infinite source of all bliss, Skila.
So the joy of participating in God's reality is greater than the joy of realizing my own small reality.
That's the core claim. The individual Atman is infinitesimal. Even when realized as spiritual, it's still a tiny point of consciousness. Experiencing the infinite supreme person who contains all possible rasas, all delights, that experience is presented as vastly richer, deeper, and ultimately more fulfilling. It explains why the devotee chooses service over merging.
Makes sense. Okay, let's get into those 6 specific qualities of pure bhakti that Rupa Goswami lays out. These define what makes bhakti unique. First one, it destroys difficulties, the klishas.
Yes, and this is a major claim about its power. Bhakti acts like a spiritual solvent. It completely purifies and destroys papa sin, non-righteous actions, what's called adharma.
All kinds of negative karma.
The text is specific. It destroys both types. First, prarabdha karma. That's the karma already activated. The stuff bearing fruit right now, your current body, your social situation, your immediate sufferings or enjoyments, it's already in motion.
Okay, the stuff we're living through.
Right. And second, prarabdha karma. These are the seeds. The karma stored up, lying dormant, waiting to sprout in future lives. Bhakti, it's claimed, burns up both the current consequences and the future potential. It's presented as a total karmic cleanse, not just managing the symptoms.
How does that stack up against, say, Patanjali's yoga? Because yoga is very focused on dealing with suffering, with the kleshas.
This is a really interesting point of comparison, and Rupa Goswami implicitly contrasts them. Patanjali's system focuses on nirodha, which means restraint, cessation, control. The goal is to suppress or weaken the mental fluctuations, the vatis, and the underlying afflictions: ignorance, ego, attachment, aversion, fear of death, klesha.
So it's about holding them back.
Holding them back, weakening them, starving them through practices like meditation and detachment. It requires tremendous, continuous effort and willpower. The problem, from the bhakti perspective, is that the seeds, the saskaras, the deep-seated inclinations towards these things, are often just made dormant. They aren't necessarily destroyed.
Meaning they can come back.
Exactly. The yogi needs constant vigilance. If that focus wavers, if the nirodha slips even for a moment, those old tendencies, those deep-rooted desires, ragas, can surge back with full force because the root cause hasn't been eliminated.
There are famous stories about that, right? Sages falling after years of austerity.
Precisely. The classic example is a sage deep in samadhi, seemingly beyond desire, but then maybe they see something stimulating, like 2 animals mating, and suddenly that dormant desire erupts. It shows the saskara was just buried, not gone. Rupa Goswami's argument is that bhakti is superior in this regard because it works differently. It doesn't just suppress negativity, it replaces it. It floods the heart and mind with a powerful positive attraction, the beauty, the sweetness, the love of kint.
So it crowds out the negative.
It displaces it entirely. The mind becomes so absorbed in this higher taste, this divine relationship, that the lower desires, the kleshas, literally lose their appeal. They wither away because the root inclination itself is transformed, or as the text says, destroyed. It's an internal paradigm shift fueled by love, not just a constant battle of willpower.
Okay, that's a strong claim. Let's move to the second quality. It bestows auspiciousness, Suresh. What does that look like?
This points to the positive effect the devotee has on the world around them. Because pure bhakti involves overcoming selfishness and ego, the devotee naturally radiates a certain purity, a spiritual charm. Shreyas means ultimate good, welfare, auspiciousness.
So it makes things better just by being there.
In a way, yes. The source mentions that this quality manifests as all beings, even animals. It says feeling delight and attraction towards the pure devotee. They sense the lack of predatory intent, the genuine goodwill. Their presence is said to bring harmony and good fortune because they embody selflessness.
All right. Now for the really big one, maybe the most controversial. Quality C. It trivializes moksha, liberation. This seems counterintuitive, as moksha is usually seen as the ultimate goal in Hinduism.
It is radical. Moksha is the fourth purusha, the traditional goal of human life alongside dharma, duty, artha, wealth, and kama, pleasure. It means freedom, specifically freedom from the cycle of birth and death, freedom from suffering, dukkha.
So why would bhakti make that seem trivial? Like a straw tassa, as the text says.
Because the devotee's goal isn't negative, just freedom from something. It's intensely positive, the attainment of something far greater. Active, dynamic, ecstatic participation in a loving relationship with God.
Like escaping prison versus finding true love.
That's a good analogy. Moksha, especially the impersonal kind, is like getting out of the prison of suffering. It's relief, peace, maybe static bliss. But bhakti is like finding the most incredible, fulfilling relationship imaginable, which brings a joy that makes simply not suffering seem completely uninteresting by comparison. Why settle for mere absence of pain when you can have an ocean of positive ecstasy?
And the BRS explicitly rejects the 5 traditional types of liberation. Can you quickly remind us what those are?
Sure. These are the potential rewards offered by Vishnu to those who attain his realm. 1. Salokya, living on the same planet or in the same realm as the Lord. 2. Sarupya, having a similar form to the Lord, like having 4 arms. 3. Samipya, having eternal close proximity or association with the Lord. 4. Sudho, possessing opulences similar to the Lord's. 5. Suyuja, merging into the Lord's existence, often understood as dissolving into the impersonal Brahman effulgence.
And the devotee rejects all of them, even living with God.
The pure devotee, motivated only by love, rejects them if offered as a goal in themselves. They might accept living in God's realm as a facility for service, but not as the ultimate reward. The one they most strongly reject is Sayuja, merging.
Because service requires 2.
Exactly. Seva, loving service, is the very lifeblood of bhakti. Service requires a relationship between distinct entities, the lover and the beloved, the servant and the served. If the soul merges and loses its individual identity, that relationship ends. The devotee wants to taste the sweetness of loving content, not become khan. They want eternal relationship, not dissolution.
That really does reframe the entire spiritual quest.
It completely shifts the paradigm from escape or absorption to eternal loving engagement.
Which leads perfectly into quality D, special concentrated joy. This is the positive side of rejecting moksha.
Yes, this is where Rupa Goswami makes his case for the superiority of bhakti's reward. The bliss experienced in pure devotion, bhakti rasa, is described as not just different from, but quantitatively greater than the bliss of realizing the impersonal Brahman, Brahmananda.
How much greater?
The texts use hyperbole to make the point. There's a famous quote cited in the tradition, something like, if the joy of Brahman, Brahmananda, were multiplied billions and billions of times, it still wouldn't equal even a tiny drop from the ocean of the bliss of devotion, bhaktianda.
Wow. A drop versus billions of times the bliss of liberation.
It's meant to be staggering. The analogy often used is comparing the water in a calf's hoofprint to the entire ocean. Brahmananda is the hoofprint. Bhaktinanda is the ocean. This concentrated joy, this rasa, comes from the dynamic interaction, seeing God's form, hearing about his pastimes, engaging in service not just from the static realization of one's own spiritual nature alone. It's an ever-increasing relational bliss.
Okay. And the last quality, E, pure devotion, attracts Kanda. It can actually captivate God.
This is perhaps the most intimate and profound quality. It speaks to the power of pure, selfless love. The claim is that bhakti, especially in its highest stage of prema, is the only thing that can truly attract, captivate, and even, in a sense, control the Supreme Lord.
Control God. How can the finite control the infinite?
It's not control through power or magic. It's the control of love. Kunta is described as atmarama, self-satisfied, and aptakama, all desires fulfilled, yet he is irresistibly drawn to the pure love of his devotees. He desires that relationship.
Like in the stories, the Leelas.
Exactly. In his pastimes, Kunja deliberately hides his supreme majesty and power. Why? To engage in intimate, loving exchanges. He allows his mother Yashoda to bind him with ropes when he steals butter. He allows the cowherd boys to defeat him in games. He becomes the chariot driver for Arjuna. He does this because he reciprocates the bhava, the loving mood of his devotees. He is bound not by ropes or rules, but by the ropes of pure affection.
So devotion is the ultimate currency.
It's presented as the supreme power in the universe, the force that makes the infinite subordinate himself to the loving sentiments of the finite soul. This is the pinnacle of Rupa Goswami's theological vision. Bhakti is sovereign.
Okay, we've established what pure bhakti is, its incredible qualities, its radical goal of relational ecstasy. Now, how do we get there? That brings us to section 2, sadhana bhakti.
Right. Sadhana means practice, discipline, the means of accomplishment. Sadhana bhakti is devotion as it's cultivated through conscious effort, using specific techniques and engaging the senses and the mind.
Because for most of us, that ocean of love isn't just spontaneously overflowing.
Exactly. For the vast majority of souls in the material world, that inherent love for God, prema, is dormant. It's covered over, like a seed buried deep under layers of material desires, attachments, ragas, and misconceptions.
So sadhana is the work we do to uncover it.
It's the process of purification and cultivation. The goal of sadhana bhakti is to systematically remove the coverings and stimulate the awakening of that eternally perfect loving emotion, the bhava, which is already constitutionally present within the soul's heart. You're essentially watering the seed, providing the right conditions for it to sprout.
Rupa Goswami makes a distinction here between two types of sadhana, right? Based on the practitioner's state.
Yes, this is important. He outlines two main paths within sadhana, Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganaga Bhakti.
Okay, what's the difference?
Vaidhi Bhakti is regulated devotion. Vaidhi comes from vidhi, meaning rules or injunctions. This path is followed out of a sense of duty based on the instructions found in the scriptures. It requires discipline, adherence to prescribed practices, following the do's and don'ts. This is the path for almost everyone starting out.
Makes sense. You need the rules first.
You need the structure, the guardrails. Then there's Raganugakti. Raga means deep, spontaneous attachment or affection. Anuga means following in the wake of. This is spontaneous devotion. It arises not primarily from scriptural injunction, but from an intense, natural longing to love and serve Kant, often inspired by hearing about the devotion of Kant's eternal associates in the spiritual world, like the residents of Vandavana.
So love is already so strong, the rules become secondary.
Exactly. The actions flow automatically, spontaneously, out of that deep-seated love, raga. It's a very advanced state, usually considered achievable only after perfecting Vaidhi Bhakti, potentially over many lifetimes. The desire to serve is overwhelming.
So you practice the rules, Vaidhi, until the spontaneous love, Raganuga, takes over. You can't just jump to the spontaneous part.
Generally, no. You have to put in the conscious effort first. The analogy sometimes used is the mother monkey and the baby monkey versus the mother cat and the kitten. In Vaidhi Bhakti, you're like the baby monkey. You have to actively hold on tight to the mother, the practices, the rules. In Raganuga, you're like the kitten, the mother cat. Spontaneous love, grace, picks you up and carries you effortlessly.
Got it. So the BRS, in detailing these 64 processes, is mostly laying out the path of Vaidhi Bhakti.
Primarily, yes, because that's the practical reality for those of us working to cultivate that devotion. It provides the detailed instructions needed for the clinging monkey stage.
Okay, let's look at those processes. The very first ones, 1 through 3, are all about the guru. This seems foundational. Guru Tattva, the principle of the guru. Why start there before any specific ritual or practice?
Because in this tradition, spiritual progress isn't just about intellectual understanding or following instructions from a book. It's seen as requiring a living transmission, guidance from someone who has traversed the path and embodies the goal. The guru is the essential link.
So process 1, surrender at the feet of the guru.
Guru Padarshaya, taking shelter at the guru's feet. This is the absolute starting point. The scriptures insist that one must approach a genuine spiritual master to receive transcendental knowledge and guidance.
What makes a guru genuine in this context?
The key qualification isn't necessarily miracle working or charisma. It's that the guru's mind is fully absorbed in Bhagavan. They are seen as divine, not because they are God in an absolute sense, but because they are a transparent medium, a pure representative, fully connected to and acting on behalf of the divine. The Bhagavata Pura, 11.3.21, advises learning from a guru who gives himself to the self, meaning one whose own self, Atman, is surrendered to the Supreme Self, God.
And surrender here involves service. So what kind of service?
Yes, taking shelter involves both inquiring submissively, pariprashana, and rendering service, savai. The BRS emphasizes sincere, humble service. Often this involves practical, sometimes menial tasks.
Like the example of cleaning cow stalls.
Exactly. Cleaning the ashrama, washing dishes, running errands, caring for the guru's basic needs, or serving in the temple's projects like a goshala, cow sanctuary. The crucial point is that this service should be performed purely out of love and respect for the teacher and, through the teacher, for God. It must be devoid of any expectation of personal gain, social prestige, or ego gratification. Doing humble work helps dismantle the ego.
Okay, then process 2, initiation and instruction. This is the formal step. Dikha is the initiation ceremony where the guru formally accepts the disciple, gives them a spiritual name perhaps, and crucially imparts the sacred mantra, japa, specific to their worship of Kanpa. This connects the disciple to the parampara, the disciplic succession, a lineage transmitting spiritual potency. Shikha refers to the ongoing instruction and guidance the guru provides about Khatna's philosophy, pastimes, and the practice of devotion.
And process 3 builds on this, serving the guru with trust. Vishamva Guru Seva. Vishamva means intimacy, confidence, trust. This means viewing the guru not just as a knowledgeable teacher, but as a direct representative of Bhagavan, precisely because their consciousness is absorbed in God. This requires deep faith and loyalty, following their instructions meticulously, trusting that their guidance is for the disciple's ultimate spiritual benefit, even if it seems difficult or counterintuitive at times.
It demands a lot of faith in the guru's connection.
It does. The relationship is central to the process.
Now, this is interesting. Right after establishing the absolute importance of the guru, Rupa Goswami includes a specific warning for gurus. Process 12. Avoiding the attendance of numerous disciples.
Yes, Bahushiakarans. This is a fascinating and ethically profound point. He advises spiritual teachers against actively seeking or cultivating large followings, building huge institutions like massive temples, and accepting excessive personal service from disciples.
Why warn against what looks like success? Lots of followers, big temples.
Because Rupa Goswami, drawing on centuries of experience, recognized the inherent dangers. He saw that large entourages, fame, wealth donated by disciples, and constant personal attendance inevitably fueled the guru's own ego, ahakara, and pride.
It brings back the material attachments.
Exactly. Accepting constant service, being treated like royalty, managing large organizational projects, these things re-entangle the mind in material concerns and desires, ragas. They distract from the core purpose, absorption in God. This can lead to a subtle or sometimes dramatic spiritual downfall for the teacher, corrupting the very transmission they're supposed to uphold.
So the advice is to keep it simple. Focus on God, not the organization.
The ideal presented is one of simplicity and humility for the teacher. Direct disciples towards serving Kansa in the temple, not serving the guru personally beyond basic respect. Avoid zealous involvement in grand projects, which often become entangled in politics, fundraising, and competition, breeding materialism rather than pure devotion. The focus must remain relentlessly on Bhagavan.
That must have been a real challenge, though. Chaitanya's movement was becoming massive. How did the early leaders like Rupa Goswami himself navigate this? Was it just an ideal?
It was a lived ideal, though certainly challenging. The 6 Goswamis of Vrindavana, including Rupa, are renowned for their extreme austerity and renunciation. They lived incredibly simple lives, reportedly sleeping under a different tree each night, wearing minimal cloth, eating only what was necessary to survive, and dedicating almost all their time to writing, meditation, and establishing the core principles and places of worship.
So they led by example.
They modeled the principle that the center of the movement must always be Kana, not the personality of the guru. When the guru becomes the primary recipient of wealth, worship, and service, the spiritual dynamic gets distorted. This cautionary principle acts as a perpetual reminder, a check against the institutional decay that can easily set in when spiritual movements become large and successful. It's about protecting the purity of the transmission.
Okay, so after establishing the crucial role of the guru and that important warning, the BRS dives into the long list of specific practices for Vaidhi Bhakti. These seem to cover everything from ethics to rituals. Let's start with items 4 through 7, which seem focused on attitude and understanding.
Right. These set the stage for the more active practices. Number 4 is following the path of the saints, sadhu manuvartanam.
Sticking to the tradition.
Essentially, yes. It emphasizes humility. Don't try to reinvent the wheel based on your own mind, which is likely still influenced by material conditioning. Trust the path laid out by previous great devotees, sadhus, mahajanas, who have successfully reached the goal. Follow their example and the established lineage practices.
Then number 5, inquiry into the true nature of things. This sounds like jnana, knowledge. I thought bhakti was different.
It is different in its goal, but bhakti, particularly in the systematic form, doesn't reject knowledge. It actually requires a specific kind of jhana as its foundation. This isn't about realizing the impersonal Brahman, but about understanding the metaphysical reality that underpins devotion.
What specific understanding is needed?
The devotee must understand, intellectually grasp, that the ultimate reality is not an illusion, maya in the sense of non-existence. They need to know that there is a real spiritual world, that individual souls, jivas, are real, eternal entities, and that Bhagavan, the Supreme Person, is real and possesses qualities, form, and pastimes. This foundational jhana gives conviction and prevents the path from being undermined by impersonal or nihilistic philosophies that deny the possibility of a real, loving relationship with God.
So you need the right map before you start the journey.
You need to know the territory is real and the destination exists. And that leads to number 6. Renouncing ordinary pleasures for kaptansai, akira hila vogatiga, renunciation vairagya is still necessary.
But with a bhakti twist.
Exactly. It's not just about detachment because worldly things cause suffering, which is often the motivation in jnana or some forms of yoga. Here, renunciation is framed as an offering. You give up attachment to lesser pleasures for the sake of gaining the higher pleasure of serving Kukli. It's done out of love and desire for him, not just aversion to the material. You're trading up, essentially.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, number 11 seems quite strong. Keeping away from those averse to kapunk, Kavimukajana Satsargatiga. Why such a strict injunction about association?
This is about protecting the tender sprout of devotion. Spiritual consciousness is portrayed as delicate, especially in the beginning stages. Just as good association, sadhusaga, is considered incredibly powerful for fostering bhakti, bad association, asatsaga, is seen as equally powerful in destroying it.
What constitutes bad association here?
It refers to associating closely with those who are actively atheistic, materialistic, cynical about devotion, or engaged in activities contrary to devotional principles. The sources use strong language, like quoting verses saying it's better to be locked in a cage of fire than to associate with those deeply inimical to Bhagavan.
That sounds extreme.
It sounds extreme, but the rationale is pragmatic. Constant exposure to negativity, criticism, mockery, or simply a worldview that denies the spiritual dimension can easily erode a beginner's faith and enthusiasm. It creates doubt and pulls the mind back towards material concerns. So this rule is presented as necessary spiritual self-preservation, at least until one's own devotion is strong and steady.
Okay. Let's move into some of the more specific traditional practices listed between 8 and 20. These seem like purification and observance.
Yes, these are actions that help purify the body and mind, making them more suitable vessels for devotional practice. Number 8 is fasting on Ekadashi.
The 11th day of the lunar cycle.
Right, the 11th day after the new moon and the full moon. Observing a fast on these days, traditionally often abstaining from greens and beans, sometimes a full fast is considered very important. It's said to eliminate misfortunes, counteract sins, and bestow immense spiritual merit, puja. Physically, it gives the digestive system a rest. Spiritually, it helps curb sense gratification and focus the mind on God.
The number 10. Respect for holy trees, cows, and Brahmins. These seem like general pious acts.
They are. Respecting things considered sacred, like the tulasi plant, the banyan tree, cows, seen as embodiments of motherhood and dharma, and qualified Brahmins, repositories of Vedic knowledge and culture, falls under the category of auspicious conduct. These actions cultivate reverence and are said to destroy sins, creating a pious mental environment. They might not directly lead to the highest state of bhava on their own, but they build the foundation. They train the devotee to recognize sanctity in the world.
And a very important one, number 19. Avoiding offense to the holy name, nama parada virginam.
Absolutely critical, especially in a tradition that emphasizes chanting so heavily. The name of Kun, or Vinu, Hari, is considered non-different from Kun himself. It's Bhagavan manifesting as sound. Therefore, the name must be treated with utmost respect and attention.
What counts as an offense?
There's a traditional list of 10 offenses, but common ones include chanting inattentively, using the name for material gain, committing sins with the expectation that chanting will erase them, disrespecting the scriptures or the guru who reveals the name, equating the name with ordinary sound, or preaching the glories of the name to the faithless. Such offenses are said to block spiritual progress significantly. It underscores that chanting is a sacred act, a relationship, not just a mechanical technique.
Okay, that makes sense. The next group, 21 to 23, seems to be about visibly adopting a Vishkava identity.
Yes, this involves marking the body, making the practice external and communal. Number 21 is wearing the marks of a Vishkava. This primarily refers to applying talaka.
The sacred clay markings on the forehead and body.
Exactly, usually made from clay from sacred rivers or places like Ndavana. The specific shape often indicates the particular sampradaya or lineage. Applying talaka marks the body as a temple of Vishnu or Hari, dedicating it to his service. Some traditions also practice tapa, branding the body with the symbols of Vishnu, like the conch and disc, signifying surrender and belonging. These acts are believed to purify the wearer and even the surroundings and protect from negative influences, like the agents of Yama, the god of death. It's a visible declaration of faith and allegiance.
And number 23, wearing flower garlands offered to the deity, Nirmaya Dharancham. This connects to the idea of prasadam.
Yes, it's about accepting the remnants of the Lord's enjoyment. Garlands, flowers, or tulasi leaves that have first been offered to the deity in worship are considered mahaprasadam, highly spiritually potent remnants. Wearing these is an act of devotion, believed to bestow blessings, protect from misfortune, and saturate the wearer with the Lord's spiritual energy. It's choosing divine remnants over mundane decoration.
Now we get into more active, physical forms of worship, numbers 24 to 31, engaging the body directly.
These practices channel the body's energy and senses into devotional expression. Number 24 is dancing before the deity. Nittyam.
Dancing as worship.
Yes, especially in the Caitanya tradition, ecstatic dancing during kirtana, congregational chanting, is highly encouraged. The sources claim that a devotee who dances with genuine devotional feeling can burn away the karmic reactions of many lifetimes. It's seen as a spontaneous expression of spiritual joy that helps transcend bodily identification and ego.
Then 25, prostration.
Prostration.
Bowing down fully, like a stick falling flat on the ground, especially before the deity, the guru, or venerable devotees. It's a profound physical act of humility, placing the head, the seat of the ego, lower than the feet of the revered object or person.
And 29, circumambulation, parikrama. Walking clockwise around the temple, the deity, a sacred place like Vrindavana, or even a tulasi plant. The symbolism is potent. By physically moving in a sacred circle, keeping the divine at the center, the devotee aims to stop their own endless circulation in the cycle of birth and death. Sanara.
Okay, and number 30, worship of the deity, arcana or puja. This seems like the core ritual.
It is a central practice for many. Arcana is the formal, systematic worship of the deity form, the murti or image, installed in a temple or home shrine. It involves a series of steps. Preliminary purification, like bathing, applying sacred marks, nyasa, and then offering various articles like water, flowers, incense, lamps, food, accompanied by specific mantras.
You mentioned nyasa there. Can you explain that briefly?
Nyasa is a ritual technique used in preparation for puja. It involves touching different parts of one's own body while reciting specific mantras, thereby symbolically placing or installing the energies and aspects of the deity onto one's own form. It's a way of purifying the worshipper's body and consciousness, making it a fit instrument for interacting with the divine, and recognizing the connection between the microcosm, the individual, and the macrocosm, the deity.
So puja is quite involved. What's its main benefit according to the BRS?
Consistent, devoted arcana is said to purify the worshipper's existence and ultimately lead them to the spiritual world, Vaikuntha. It establishes a regular formal relationship with the Lord in his deity manifestation.
Finally, in this section on practices, we have numbers 37 to 41, focusing on the power of remnants, prasada.
Yes, the principle of accepting things sanctified by contact with the Lord. This is very important in bhakti. Number 37 is eating offered food, pratasavana.
Food first offered to the deity.
Exactly. Especially food prepared with devotion, offered according to prescribed methods, often including sacred tulasi leaves. This food is no longer considered ordinary matter, it's spiritually charged. Eating prasadam is said to grant immense spiritual merit, equivalent to performing many sacrifices, and it directly purifies the consciousness of the person eating it. It nourishes the soul.
Now, number 38 is striking. Drinking water used to wash the deity's feet, paradakapanam. The text says this alone can grant the highest goal, even if other duties were neglected.
It is a very strong statement, yes. It highlights the immense potency attributed to direct remnants from the Lord's form, the deity. Paradaka, water from the feet, or kana, nectar from the feet, is considered exceptionally pure. The claim that accepting it with faith can supersede other merits underscores the Bhakti principle that direct connection and loving surrender to Bhagavan are ultimately more powerful than adherence to rituals or duties performed without that connection. It's about the supremacy of grace received through humility.
It's radical.
It is. And the following items, 39 to 41, extend this principle to other senses. Smelling the fragrance of incense or flowers offered to the deity Nirmalya Gandhogratham purifies the sense of smell and destroys sinful reactions. Touching the deity's body, Yurimurti Sparshanam, done with proper reverence and usually only by the authorized priest, pujari, is also considered highly purifying. The underlying idea is that anything directly connected to Bhagavan becomes spiritualized and purifies the soul upon contact, counteracting the illusion inherent in material perception.
We've covered a lot of ground: the foundational principles, the role of the guru, many external rituals, and purificatory acts. Now, Section 4 seems to bring us to practices that are perhaps even more central, focusing on sound, mind, and total surrender.
Yes, these are often considered the most direct and potent means, especially within the Gaudiya tradition influenced by Caitanya. Practices 32 and 34 revolve around chanting the holy name.
Two different kinds of chanting.
Two main modes. Number 32 is Sakirtana. This is the congregational chanting or singing of the Lord's names, qualities, and pastimes, often done loudly, with musical instruments and involving dancing.
The kind Caitanya really emphasized.
Exactly. He initiated the Sakirtana movement. Its power lies in its collective energy. Psychologically, chanting together loudly helps overcome individual inhibitions, anxieties, and mental inertia. Tamas. The shared focus and ecstatic expression create a powerful spiritual atmosphere that purifies the participants and the environment. It's an outward, dynamic explosion of devotion.
And number 34.
That's japa. This is the quiet, personal recitation of the sacred mantra given by the guru, usually done using japa beads, a rosary, often of 108 beads, to keep count. This is a much more ancient practice found across many Indian traditions since the Upanishads.
So Sakirtana is loud and communal. Japa is quiet and personal.
Right. Japa is focused inward. Its primary purpose is to fix the mind steadily on the sound vibration of the name, thereby controlling the wandering thoughts and purifying the consciousness. While Sakirtana leverages external sound and community, japa cultivates internal concentration and a personal connection with the name. Both are considered essential.
Okay. Then the focus shifts from sound to story and memory, with 46 and 47.
Yes. Number 46 is hearing the stories of the Lord's activities, lakate shravantam. This means regularly listening to or reading the sacred narratives, particularly from texts like the Bhagavata Purana or the Mahabharata, which describe Kuncha's divine play.
Why is hearing stories so important?
Because the mind naturally gravitates towards narratives. Usually we fill our minds with worldly stories, gossip, news, entertainment. Hearing the transcendental leelas acts as a powerful purifier. These stories are described as being like nectar, rasa, amaipta. They are inherently attractive and engaging. By repeatedly hearing them with faith, the mind, often agitated by passion, rajas, and dullness, tamas, becomes naturally drawn towards Kian and spiritual themes. It's considered an easier way to purify the mind than, say, abstract philosophical contemplation.
And this leads to number 47, remembering the Lord, smarantam.
Smartam. This is often considered the ultimate immediate goal or function of bhakti practice in general. The desired state is constant, unbroken remembrance or thought of God, his names, forms, qualities, pastimes.
But it's listed quite late in the BRS sequence of 64.
That placement is significant. Rupa Goswami seems to indicate that while smarantam is the objective, it's not usually the starting point. The preceding practices, taking shelter of the guru, chanting, hearing, serving, purifying oneself, are all supports, augas, designed to make steady smarasam possible.
You can't just force yourself to remember God all the time if your mind is untrained.
Exactly. The mind is conditioned to remember and desire material things. Trying to force constant remembrance of God without first undertaking the preparatory purification, weakening the klishas, developing taste through hearing and chanting, is likely to be frustrating and unsuccessful. The mind will keep wandering back to its old habits. The other 63 processes build the necessary foundation, the purified mental space, where smarantam can arise naturally and flow steadily.
So the structure of the list itself is instructive. It's a system.
It's very much a system. You build the infrastructure before you can run the main program, which is remembrance.
This brings us near the end of the list, to number 49, fully entrusting oneself to the Lord, Atmanivedanam or Sharagati. This sounds like the culmination.
It is arguably the essence of the devotional attitude. Atmanivedanam means offering oneself completely. Shagati is taking full shelter, complete surrender. It means consciously placing one's life, actions, results, destiny, everything entirely in Bhagavan's hands.
Total dependence.
Total dependence, total trust. When a devotee reaches this state, fully entrusting themselves, the texts say they transcend material limitations and enter into an immortal connection, becoming an integrated part of the divine plan. The prayer associated with this is absolute. I am yours, I surrender to you, I take refuge only in you.
What's the consequence of such total surrender?
Theologically, it's said to absolve the devotee from all other debts and obligations, the traditional debts to the gods, devas, the sages, the ancestors, other living beings, etc. By surrendering fully to the supreme source of everything, all subsidiary obligations are considered fulfilled in the highest sense. It's a declaration of ultimate allegiance.
Surrender isn't passive, though. It leads to action, right? As seen in 50 and 51.
Absolutely. True surrender manifests an act of service. Number 50 is offering things dear to oneself. Nija priyapaharanam.
Giving up what you love most.
Offering it to Kana, yes. This is a practical test of detachment and devotion. Whatever is most valuable or cherished in the material world, whether it's wealth, talent, time, a particular object, even one's own ego, offering that for Kana's service demonstrates genuine priorities. Such sacrifices are said to yield unlimited spiritual benefit because they strike at the root of material attachment, which is possessiveness, mine.
And finally, 51. Making all efforts for his benefit.
This integrates bhakti into every aspect of life. It means performing all activities, whether apparently worldly, like work, family duties, or explicitly religious, as an act of service, seva, offered to Hari. The key is the consciousness behind the action, maintaining the mental connection, doing everything as an offering for his pleasure, keeping the mind fixed on Bhagavan as much as possible. This transforms mundane life into a continuous devotional practice. It's the bhakti application of karma yoga spiritualizing action through intention and dedication of results.
So after detailing these 51 or more, counting subparts processes, Rupa Goswami ends the sadhana section by highlighting 5 specific practices again. Why repeat them?
He lists 5 practices at the very end, stating they possess special potency even among the 64. This repetition serves as emphasis, like an executive summary pointing to the absolute most effective means for achieving the goal of bhava bhakti. These 5 are considered particularly powerful catalysts.
And what are those top 5?
They are: 1. Association with advanced, affectionate devotees, sadhusaga. Being in the company of those who already possess genuine love for God. This is often considered the most important, as their purity is contagious. 2. Chanting or singing the holy names of the Lord, namakirtana, the core practice given by Caitanya. 3. Hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavata Shavam, regularly immersing oneself in the primary scripture detailing Kainta's philosophy and pastimes. 4. Residing in Mathura, Matravasa, living in or frequently visiting the sacred region associated with Kainta's appearance and activities, Mathura, Vrindavan, etc., which is considered spiritually supercharged. 5. Serving the deity form with special love and faith, developing a deep, personal, affectionate relationship with the worshipful form of the Lord.
So community, chanting, scripture, sacred place, and personal deity worship. Those are the fast tracks, so to speak.
They are presented as the most direct and efficacious ways to awaken love for God, acting as the cornerstones of the Vaidhi path leading towards the ocean of nectar.
We've gone through the what, the nature of bhakti, and the how, the 64 practices of sadhana. Now, to really grasp the BRS, we need to connect it all to the underlying philosophy, the why it works. This takes us into the sophisticated metaphysics of Gaitya Vedanta.
Exactly. The practices aren't just arbitrary rituals. They are grounded in a very specific understanding of reality, energy, and the soul's relationship with God. This framework gives the BRS its intellectual coherence and depth.
And the core doctrine here is about energy.
Shakti.
Yes, the central cosmological principle is Shukti Shuktiman Abheda. Shuktiman means the possessor of energy, the energetic source, who is identified as Shukkant. Shukti is his energy. Abheda means non-different. So the doctrine states the non-difference between God, the energetic, and his energies.
If they're non-different, how can we talk about God and the world or God and the soul? Doesn't that lead back to pure monism where only God exists? That's the crucial point where Gautya Vedanta introduces nuance. They are non-different in essence, dravya abheda, meaning everything is ultimately made of the same divine substance. But they are eternally distinct in their function or manifestation, vyaparabheda.
Can you give an analogy?
The classic analogy is the sun and sunlight. The sunlight, Shakti, is non-different from the sun, Shaktiman. You can't have one without the other, they are the same energy. Yet, the sunlight spreads everywhere, performs functions like illumination and warming, while the sun remains a distinct, localized source. They are inseparable in essence, but distinct in how they function and manifest.
So it's a kind of energetic monism, but with functional pluralism. One source, many real manifestations.
That's a very good way to put it. It allows for both the ultimate oneness of reality, rooted in Kanans, and the experiential reality of diversity, relationship, and interaction.
And this leads to their most famous, perhaps most challenging, philosophical doctrine, Asintya.
Right. Asintya means inconceivable. Bheda means difference. Abheda means non-difference. Tattva means truth. So it's the truth of inconceivable, simultaneous oneness and difference.
Why inconceivable?
Because, the philosophers argue, the precise relationship between the infinite Lord and his finite energies, like the world and the souls, cannot be fully grasped or reconciled by the limitations of human logic and language. Our minds tend to think in either terms, either things are one or they are different.
But this doctrine says they are both, simultaneously.
Yes. If you say God and the soul are absolutely one, Abheda only, like in Advaita Vedanta, you risk denying the reality of the individual soul and the possibility of a loving relationship, which requires two. If you say they are absolutely different, Bheda only, like in some Advaita schools, you risk limiting God's power and denying his intimate connection and presence within his creation.
So the truth encompasses both aspects, even if our logic can't fully resolve the paradox.
Precisely. The relationship is asintya, beyond our mental grasp, but real nonetheless. We experience both our distinct individuality and our connection to a greater whole. The sunlight analogy helps again. The sunlight is the sun's energy, oneness, but it's experienced here on Earth, distinct from the solar orb difference. Khan is simultaneously transcendent, beyond the universe, and immanent, pervading it as its very substance and sustainer. This framework prevents reality from being dismissed as mere illusion. Maya in the negative sense.
Okay, let's break down the energies themselves. Gaccha Vedanta categorizes Kanta's Sakti into three principal types, right? This structure defines everything.
Yes, this threefold classification is key to understanding the cosmic layout. 1. Swarupa Shakti, internal potency. This is God's primary, intrinsic personal energy. It's the energy that constitutes his own being, and the purely spiritual realm, places like Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavana. This energy is characterized by pure eternality, sat, pure consciousness, and pure bliss. Anda, it's the realm of unadulterated reality, where perfect bhakti and divine relationships eternally exist.
The destination, essentially.
The eternal homeland, yes. 2. Maya Shakti, external potency. This is God's external secondary energy. It's responsible for the creation and maintenance of the material universes. This energy is characterized by ignorance, avidya, and illusion. It acts as a veil, covering the true spiritual nature of the souls within it. Under its influence, consciousness identifies with inert matter, priti, leading to the false ego, ahankara, material desires, and the cycle of suffering, dukh, and repeated birth and death.
So Maya isn't non-existent, but it's reality perceived incorrectly.
Exactly. The material world is real as an energy of God, but our perception of it as separate from him and as the source of lasting happiness is the illusion Maya. It's like a reflection. The reflection exists, but it's not the original substance. 3. The Asa Shakti, marginal potency. This is crucial for understanding ourselves. This potency comprises the individual souls, the jivas.
Why marginal? Positioned where?
Vada means shore or bank. The jivas are situated constitutionally on the margin, or the borderline, between the spiritual energy, Svarupa Shakti, and the material energy, Maya Shakti. They are qualitatively spiritual, like God, possessing sat, seat, anda in minute quantity, but they are quantitatively infinitesimal.
And this marginal position gives them choice.
Exactly. This is the locus of free will, albeit infinitesimal freedom. Being on the margin, the jiva has the inherent capacity to choose its orientation. It can turn towards Kuta and the spiritual energy, engaging in bhakti, or it can turn away from Kuta and fall under the influence of the material energy, Maya. The jiva is described as the pivot of evolution in consciousness. Its choice determines its destiny.
So all our struggles, our spiritual practices, it all comes down to exercising that infinitesimal freedom to turn back towards the spiritual pole.
That's the essence of the journey described in the BRS. Our current state of material entanglement is due to a past misuse of that freedom, turning away from our natural relationship with God. The 64 processes of Sadhana Bhakti are the practical means provided to help the jiva, the Taisa Shakti, consciously reorient itself, withdraw its focus from Maya Shakti, and reconnect with the Svarupa Shakti through loving service to Bhagavan.
That brings everything together. The BRS isn't just a list of rules. It's the operational manual for the Tasta Shakti to navigate its way home, using its inherent freedom correctly. The ocean of nectar metaphor isn't just poetic, it reflects this energetic continuum.
Precisely. All levels of existence, spiritual, marginal, material, are understood as differentiated expressions of the one divine energy, Shakti, emanating from the one source, Shaktiman. It's a non-fragmented continuum. Bhakti is the prescribed method, the science for transitioning consciousness from the zone of shadow, Maka, back into the zone of eternal light and love, Svarupa.
And the goal isn't merging into undifferentiated light, but regaining our place in the dynamic, loving reality of that spiritual realm.
Exactly. Restoring our original function as eternal servants and lovers of God, experiencing that ever-increasing rasa, #outro.
Well, that was certainly a deep dive. We've explored the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, this incredible text that lays out such a systematic, detailed path towards divine love.
It really is a roadmap. We saw how it defines pure bhakti through its unique qualities, especially its power to destroy karma, and most radically, its dismissal of impersonal liberation, moksha, in favor of something far greater.
Right, that positive goal of Bhakti Rasa, that special concentrated joy found only in relationship with Kana.
And we walk through the sadhana, the practical steps, starting with the absolute necessity of the guru, then moving through the 64 processes involving everything from ethical conduct and ritual worship, or kana, to the core practices of chanting, kirtana, japa, hearing, shabavan, and ultimately complete surrender, Atmanivedanam.
With that crucial emphasis on the top 5 practices, association with devotees, chanting the name, hearing the Bhagavatam, residing in Mathura, and serving the deity with love.
And we grounded all of this in the profound metaphysical framework of Gacchya Vedanta, the non-difference yet functional distinction between God, Shaktiman, and his energies, Shakti. Understanding the soul, Jiva, as the marginal potency, Dafta Shakti, with the freedom to choose between material illusion, Maya, and spiritual reality, Svarupa, really illuminates why these practices are considered effective.
It provides the why behind the how.
It does. The BRS presents a path where the ultimate pursuit isn't about dissolving into an impersonal state or simply escaping suffering. It's about something much more dynamic and arguably more ambitious.
Which is?
It's about using the power of pure, unmotivated affection pramana to actively engage with, serve, and, even in a loving sense, capture the infinite supreme person. It's about achieving an eternal, reciprocal, dynamically blissful, loving relationship. That's the ocean of nectar the BRS invites us into.
A powerful thought to end on. Thank you for guiding us through that immense structure.
My pleasure. It's a truly fascinating system.
And for our listeners, for more information, please contact Sachin J. Karnik at the email address provided in the description box. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.